welcome to the Brick Den and the first episode of From Screen to Bricks. In this show I'll be looking at Lego sets based off films and really looking at how well Lego have translated it from the film into the brick form. Not so much looking at how fun the set is overall, that will come in more standard reviews. And remember, we all have different opinions, so feel free to leave yours in the comments below. So without further ado, let's begin. Today's set is the Bat vs Bane Tumbler Chase, a set which represents a scene from The Dark Knight Rises, one right near the end, where Batman is chasing a couple of tumblers and the truck with the bomb in it. Jim Gordon was in this scene, but he was in the truck. It's understandable why they wanted to include the truck. It's big, and we get them a lot in Lego City sets, and it would have added a lot of cost to the set. But the truck had a bomb in it, and that bomb was very important to the story of The Dark Knight Rises. So it's a bit strange why they wouldn't include it in this set, this being the only Dark Knight Rises set Lego released. I think it would have added a lot to this set, and made the set represent the film more. Unlike the bomb, Bane was not in this scene, but he's still included in the set, and I think it's the same reason why they should have included the bomb in this set. It's because Bane was a major character in The Dark Knight Rises and the main villain, and this being the only Dark Knight Rises set they made, they kind of had to include him. So I'm glad they did, even though he wasn't in the scene. Now, let's go a little bit more in depth in this set, looking at all the individual pieces. To me, half this set works and half the other doesn't. So let's have a look. The Bat is the aircraft given to Bruce Wayne by Lucius Fox in The Dark Knight Rises. I kind of see it as Christopher Nolan's version of the Batwing, just like the Tumbler is his version of the Batmobile. I think both vehicles were created to make their counterpart feel like they could exist in the real world. In the film, the explanation is they were made for the army but were too expensive for them to buy them. So now then, let's have a look at what Lego came up with for the Bat. So, here we are, the first part of the set, the Bat. So the first thing for me to point out is how they've added blue all over the model. This was nowhere to be seen in the film. I think it's just to spice the model up and add some extra colour. They've also moved the rotor position from the underneath the wing to on the side of the ship. I think this is probably just to simplify the build, as it's quite complicated to add a rotor on the underside of a Lego piece. They've also got red and yellow pieces here. This is a common thing to do in a Lego set, as it's usually because these pieces are easy to find when you're building. So Lego do that just to make the build easier. Although, in most Lego sets, these pieces are usually covered up. But luckily though, they've kept 2 seats in the cockpit, which is really good, so it means you can have both Batman and Jim Gordon in the ship at once, so you don't have any Lego minifigures left out. They've even incorporated the blue into the stickers on the top of the ship. These stickers don't really represent any specific detail from the film. I think they're just there to add more detail, literally, to the Lego set. In the film, the top of the wings were very complicated on the Bat, but here they're much more simple. I think this is really just to simplify the build. This detail here, I think, is supposed to represent the detail that was on the underside of the wing, but they've just moved it here instead. I quite like this though, because it looks really detailed, even though it's not exactly the same as from the film. They've also kept the rope from the film as well, although it's always dangling from the back because there's no way to wind it in. I still think it's a welcome thing for anybody who wants to build their own bomb. But overall on the back, I think it represents the feel of what we saw in The Dark Knight Rises really well, even though it's not quite perfect. And I think it really fits well into the Lego world. The Tumbler was created for Batman in Batman Begins as the new Batmobile for the Dark Knight trilogy. Small models were made in Christopher Nolan's garage as model cars. The Tumbler is a prototype armoured tank designed as a bridging vehicle for the military. It includes weapons and the ability to boost into a rampless jump. The car was used by Batman in Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, but was destroyed in The Dark Knight. And then in The Dark Knight Rises, Bane stole multiples of the Tumbler. We saw 2 types of the Tumbler. Now, let's take a closer look. Here's Bane's Tumbler. As you can see, I've not put the stickers on mine, just because I only think it subtracts from the set. In my opinion, they've not included many of the key details of the Tumbler. Yes, it does look like a big beefy tank, but many of the individual, unique details of the amazing design of the tumbler aren't included, such as there being no axle between the two front wheels, and the double thick tyres at the back. Inside there is only one seat, but I think this is understandable because there isn't much room inside the cockpit, and to make this in scale with minifigures, they couldn't have really added another seat inside. The turbine on the back still looks good. I really like it as well with the fire coming out. In the film there are two front windscreens, whereas here there's only one. It kind of looks like they've tried to split it in two with a cheese slope, but it hasn't really worked for me. Also, there are a lot of the small details missing, like vents and the fins on the back. And it hasn't really captured the dynamic look of the tumbler for me. It's very a basic version of it. I do understand that the tumbler would be a very hard thing to replicate in Lego, but I think some of the really simple details that would have been easy to add, like the double wheels at the back, and maybe trying to not include an axle in the front, have been missed out. Finally, to me, I think it's not a very good representation of a tumbler, and I think Lego have done better, and done a lot better with the recent UCS tumbler. I still think it's a very good toy and fun to play with, but I don't really think it's a good tumbler. So here we are with the minifigures. From left to right we have Batman, Bane and Jim Gordon. Firstly, let's start off with Batman. In my opinion, Batman is the best minifigures out of this three. I think he represents Christian Bale really well from the film. This is the second time we've got the Dark Knight style batsuit. The batsuit in the film is more of a dark black, but here it's more of a dark grey. I think being it dark grey is fine. I think it's better than having it black because I think the details wouldn't stand out quite as well, and the bat symbol really does stand out with it being dark grey. Like all three of these minifigures, he does have a back print right there, and I think it's really detailed as well, even though you're covering it up with the cape, and it's nice to see the pouches which are accurate to the film. I think all the details are really accurate on Batman, which is good to see because it would have been easy for them to miss them out. He's also, as all the other Batmans do, has the white headband around his head, so when the mask goes on, the eyes look white. This is not really accurate for the Batman from the films. It is accurate for the comic Batman, but not for the Dark Knight trilogy Batman, and actually most of the other live-action Batmans we've seen, because in the Batman films with the real actors, you can actually see the eyes through the cowl. This is so we get more emotion from the actors. But with the Lego set, they decided to keep it with the white eyes. Batman also does have a double-sided face with his trademark grin, I suppose, even though I've never really seen Batman smile. Okay, so next we have Bane. Bane's quite a good minifigure, even though I don't think all the colours are quite right, and it would have been nice to see some leg printing. And as always with a lot of Lego minifigures, the head print can't carry on quite round the side of his head, so the mask does look a bit not quite right, but what we do get of the mask is great, and I think his expression is captured really well. The mask does carry on to the back, and it has some really nice back printing, and I actually really like the back printing. It's really detailed with his belt that we saw in the film. Finally, here's Jim Gordon. He's wearing a SWAT uniform which he didn't wear in the Dark Knight Rises, so I can't quite understand why they've put it on him, and I wish they'd given him more of his trademark suit, which you see him wearing a lot more in the Dark Knight trilogy. He's also got a really inaccurate gun, which is nothing like the one he uses in the Dark Knight Rises. I wish they'd given him more of an old-fashioned pistol. His hair colour's right, but his hair shape is not quite right. But his face expression is great, and I really like it. It really captures the essence of Gary Oldman. He also has a double-sided face, and the printing does continue onto the back on his torso. It would have been nice to see some leg printing, but I'm not quite sure what they would have given him. Also included in this set are these road barricades, and these are welcome in my opinion. They don't use many pieces up and nice little extra details. For a rating to see how well Lego have taken the tumbler and the bat from the films into the Lego form is very difficult for me, because on one hand I really like the way they've taken the bat the bat from the films into the Lego form, but I'm not too keen on the tumbler. So I've rated them separately and then I've figured out the average. So my rating for the bat is an 8 out of 10, and then my rating for the tumbler is a 3 out of 10, which means overall I give the Bat versus Bane Tumbler Chase a 5.5 out of 10. I know that score may sound a little bit negative, but not all reviews will be this negative. And remember to leave a comment in the comment section below on how well you think Lego have taken the Bat and the tumbler into the brick form. And thank you for watching.